Welcome back to my channel. I filmed this a couple days ago. This is just going to be a relaxing chill draw with me, but I just wanted to show this Toilet Bound Hana Cocoon book that I picked up from the bookstore. I've wanted it for some time and I finally got my hands on it. And I think I'm going to use this to help with a lot of my composition studies. So we'll see. I didn't use it for this video. I kind of just drew from a reference online from Pinterest. I sped up the video just a tiny bit so you can see my full process, how I draw, and what style I'm trying to go for. I decided to start with going back to things that have inspired me from the beginning, which anime and manga. So I've gotten a few books for right now to help me with relearning a lot of like the basic skills, but also learning new techniques for drawing anime and manga. So I used this reference, just a random reference off Pinterest. I wanted it for the profile, but also I like the lighting a little bit for the side because I wanted to see something. So you'll see in the end how I'm kind of experimenting with lighting. So the way I kind of do things, I've tried to draw my shapes in the way that they show in a lot of how to draw manga or anime, and I don't like the way that feels. So where I have the one line, a lot of people use two, and I don't like that. So this way is kind of from an artist that I also am studying, Loish. She only uses the one that goes across, and that's where I center my eyes. I do prefer fuller lips. It just looks better when I draw. So you'll see as I go along, there's certain features that I prefer to be a little bit more rounded and fuller, the nose and the lips. Eyebrows, I switch back and forth. It really depends on my mood and what I'm doing. I'm trying to get better at drawing Afro textured hair, and I'm finding sort of like difficulty in doing that, but I think with a little bit more practice, I'll get there. This did not take me too long. It was a very quick sketch. I think it took like an hour, and that's quick for me. I didn't want to do too much. I kind of just wanted to get like a little bit of detail. So you'll see in the end that what I come up with is very just a basic kind of rendering. And if you like that, that's fine. It's all on preference. I get scared sometimes to do extra stuff just because I'm always afraid of how it'll look. So that's kind of how it ended up. You'll see. Eyes, I kind of do this thing where I do 3 lashes on the side and then 1 like in the front. And then I'll do 2 lashes at the bottom and then another 1 in the front. And that's kind of just like the style that I've been doing the past couple months. Just from studying other artists and see how they do lashes, I'm going to try different ways and different styles. I hope that this is not too much. This is my first time doing this type of voiceover where I'm explaining what I'm doing. But because the video was super long and I kind of wanted to shorten it, I had to speed it up a bit. So I can't really explain. But I wanted to show you a drawing that was pretty simple as far as structure with the head and then like the face and then the guidelines I use. If one stroke across for the eyes is not helpful, do what's best for you. I do guidelines the way that works for me. I've tried many different guidelines, many ways that other artists go about how they set up the structure for head and face. Too many lines is too much for me. 1 line down the middle and then across, that's enough. Anything extra, my mind gets confused of where things should go and how they should look. And if I need to change anything or alter anything, I kind of just use that little select tool and move it that way. I try not to, I don't really make a big deal. The thing about sketching is it doesn't have to be perfect. You do what works for you. It's just a sketch. You can always clean it up later. And I tend to do a rough sketch. This is like the neatest sketch I've done lately. But I tend to do a little rough sketch and then kind of go over it with thicker lines. I don't really use the outline tool just yet, but I did it for this one because I was just doing whatever, not really thinking about it. And that's the biggest thing that I'm learning as far as when I'm drawing, especially if I'm just practicing and sketching, I'm trying not to think about it. When I want to do something that's like an actual piece, I try not to think about it too hard. I do think about it. I think about where I want things to go. But when rendering comes along and I have to place everything down, I feel when I focus too hard on where it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to be, it doesn't come out the way I want. And I don't want to do that. I want to still give a great piece that looks nice, but also don't want to sabotage myself by thinking too hard about small details. And that's kind of where I'm at on my process and my workflow. I'm trying to find like easier ways to do everything, and that's getting hard because I like to do a lot of my work on the couch. And one great tip is not moving your wrist. You move your whole arm when you draw. Moving your wrist causes you to like make very not full strokes. You'll see it if you, so when you just try and draw like a face and then go only using your wrist and then try using your whole arm to move. And it sounds weird. When you do it the first couple times, it is weird, but you'll notice your lines are a lot better. When I'm sitting at my desk, I have much more control and it's much more easier to make better lines, but it's not comfortable to sit here all the time. So sometimes I sit on my couch. But this is the final outline of what I was going for. I'm also struggling to make certain features, what's the word? Correct? I don't think that's the right word, but I'm having trouble with the neck and like the shoulders, especially when I'm looking at a reference. It's hard for me to discern proportions. That's the word. It's hard for me to discern proportions when I'm looking at certain references. And thank God I only used this reference for the face itself. I really didn't have an idea about the body. I really didn't care. I kind of just wanted to do some lighting on the face, and I kind of wanted to play around with different types of features and how I wanted to draw them. And as you see, I work smarter, not harder. I use the color drop tool because it's just too much to constantly shade in. For me, I like to also go over certain parts of the eyebrow with just the color tool instead of just making the whole thing black. I've switched between coloring eyebrows and then just making them black. Whatever fits my fancy on that day, honestly. Again, I'm really just getting back into a workflow of digital art. I had stopped for like 7 years. So I'm relearning a lot as far as the tools, the different shortcuts you could use, but also how I want to render things. Because before digital art, I was just sketching and I never colored anything in. I didn't use colored pencils. I didn't use markers. I kind of just sketched and went. And I got into digital art from a friend, and I had to learn on my own a lot of things that honestly back then was a little hard because there weren't courses that you could take outside of college. And I used DeviantArt like many people. And I think my biggest thing about jumping back in is I was creating a style back then and I was finally getting it, but when I had stopped, it kind of lost all that. A lot of art is muscle memory. And I know like you have to have a predisposition to it, but like honestly, to me, anyone can really draw. You just have to practice. And at that point, it just becomes muscle memory. And since many of us use references anyway, it really doesn't matter. So this was the flat base that I used. I do enjoy using clipping mask. It makes everything easier so you don't have to go out, be super neat, and then have to erase later. I always use multiply when I do shading. Not all the time, but like certain shaded areas. So like for the neck and then like ears, where your eyelids are and your body, like that's my base of a shade. And that's what I do. And I use purple. So when you go down and multiply and it comes off like a shade. I like this better than using a darker tone of the color, of the base color. It just makes everything easier. One of my biggest things when it comes to rendering is remembering how other people do it and then trying to apply it and feeling like it's not fitting. But I think that's me thinking about it too hard because this came out great. It was one of my simpler sketches, and I think it came out pretty great for the minimal detail. And yeah, since this is not a tutorial, there's not really much that I can say aside from I try to make this as quick as possible. I try to give you as much insight as I possibly can. But this was a faster draw with me than I normally do. Sometimes I just put like captions down and you can read, but I thought I can give a little bit more of me in the video. So yeah, I've gotten to this point where I like drawing over lines sometimes. Not yet confident in doing fully lineless art because I still don't know how to do it. I've watched so many videos and it still does not come easy for me. So for now, we will use lines. A quick tip as far as if you want to add a little bit more detail, I've seen a lot of people use like a darker shade to heighten the nose. I do that excessively. That's like one of my favorite things to do. And you can honestly just do that and add some like blush, which is what I did. And that's your detail. Like you don't have to be super perfect with it. It can look fully rendered with minimal detail. And as you'll see, I'm a big user of using certain overlays. So I'll do like a color backdrop and then I will throw a color on top and kind of just go down to see what works well. That way it can give more razzle dazzle, if you will, to the piece. So yeah, I want to do a tutorial, but I'm horrible at teaching and explaining things. And then I get nervous when I have to talk here. So that's probably why this feels a little bit awkward. I'm trying. I'm used to not speaking, kind of just posting and having music in the background. But like I said, I want to give more of myself and also want to show people how to draw and do digital art and also show my journey as relearning all of this because it's been years. So one thing that I started also doing, especially with more of my stylized anime art, is adding the white as like a highlight. I see a lot of people do it, and at first I wasn't very confident in it because I always felt it looked weird when I did it, but I just didn't care and I just did it. I think this is one of my better pieces this week. Some don't always make the cut, but I really did enjoy drawing this one, and I really did like playing with the different types of ways I wanted to shade and highlight. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully the next video won't be as awkward. I'm trying. I'm also I also have a ADHD, so it's hard for me to focus on one train of thought and make everything cohesive and make sense. I really should write things down. Not that I need a script, but it just will be easier. That way I don't lose my train of thought. And then trying to explain and do this is also kind of hard. But we'll get there. But I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching.